So this is another one in the series of at least I've finally reviewed, for the game Sonic Frontiers, which released November 8th, 2022 for all major consoles and PC Steam. This review will specifically focus on playing the PS5 version. I'd probably classify my personal level of being a Sonic fan as one who is at least slightly above average. I've played roughly 10 of the mainline 2D Sonic entries and about 5 of the 3D ones. Even though I grew up as a Nintendo fanboy, I've always had a soft spot for the Blue Blur and his friends. That being said, I do know that he's had quite a shaky footing of not-so-good games and, let's be honest, bad games in the last couple decades. For every Sonic Mania, there's a Sonic Forces and then some. What we've seen with Frontiers was already steeped in controversy even before its release and hell, even after it. The game, upon original gameplay reveal through IGN, got a lot of flack for its generic and default Unreal Engine-looking environment, as well as a lot of heavy poppin' for non-environmental items like platforms, rails, and so forth, and upon release, it was known to run quite poorly on the Nintendo Switch. Overlooking the first two reasons and ignoring the last, since I have a PS5, I still felt this was worth playing. The game starts off with the main character being pulled into an unfamiliar world, joined by characters from his past. He must explore a large world, which is done in a cross between open world and platforming concepts, using his powers to defeat enemies. Collecting items so as to gain power, he must gain enough of these so he can transform into his own sort of Super Saiyan and defeat a colossally sized enemy. The player must follow this process a number of times before they're finally able to defeat the main enemy once and for all. So why am I showing you footage of Super Mario 3D World's Bowser Fury? Because Sonic Frontiers has the same exact gameplay loop, albeit one leaning into the Sonic style of gameplay. Instead of cat shines, Sonic collects Chaos Emeralds. Instead of Mario using the cat shines to unlock the Giga Bell to transform into Giga Cat Mario, Sonic uses the Chaos Emeralds to become Super Saiyan. Super Sonic.
They have the same eyes!
To unlock the Chaos Emeralds, Sonic must collect Vault Keys, which can both be found around the large expansive islands he explores, as well as clearing specific callbacks to his past called cyberspace levels. Both games have puzzles in the main areas to explore, Sonic's allowing the map to be revealed, whereas these puzzles and challenges reward Mario directly with the cat shines. While this gameplay loop worked well in Bowser's Fury, I also believe it does the game credit in Frontiers too. So much so that I'd have to say that Sonic Frontiers is the best 3D Sonic that Sega has ever released. The first one I played was Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube. Frontiers beats it simply because the player controls Sonic the whole time. No inane Knuckles and Rouge item hunting levels, or slow and boring mech levels as Tails and Eggman. And Frontiers also doesn't have the boring Chow Garden bullcrap either. Sorry, Chow Garden fans, I've never been a fan of Tamagotchi-style minigames, and this garden was literally the only reason I never hit 180 emblems. I played Sonic Colors for the first time back when it re-released in September 2021 on the PS4. I can safely say Frontiers blows it away too. Most of Sonic's abilities that he gains in Frontiers are secondary beyond the side loop, and the game doesn't pretend to have these appear to be any more important than that. This was because I felt that Sonic Colors' abilities, through the Wisps, served little purpose beyond one-and-done scenarios. Sonic felt like he had lead weights while attempting to be controlled in Colors, and while Frontiers does force 2D situations, especially in the third island's exploration, it doesn't do it nearly as much as in Colors. And finally, I felt that Frontiers also beats out Sonic Generations as well, because of Frontiers' open zone format. Both entries do lean a bit heavy on the nostalgia factor, but they were both released to celebrate anniversaries that the Blue Blur had at the time of release. Regarding the open zone format of exploration of all these large islands, I felt this easily was the best part of the game. Taking Sonic out into them, zooming around, collecting various collectibles, items, and exploring and just moving around as fast as possible was an absolute blast. Though, if I have to see that full Rings 3-second FMV one more time, I might pop. Having full rings gives an already speedy Sonic a huge speed boost, one that sometimes causes him to speed too fast and miss platforms he may need to reach if speeding up too quickly. Overall speed can not only be adjusted in the extremely robust options settings, but also can be leveled up by finding small stone babies called Cocos. Sonic's total ring capacity can be upgraded in the same way as well. While this makes it harder to reach the capacity point for this speed boost, rings also act like a sort of hit point meter, though if Sonic gets hit with no rings, he just warps back to the last auto checkpoint. There are no lives in this game. Additionally, rings act as a sort of timer for the amount of time that Sonic can be supersonic. Sonic's power and defense can also be upgraded by finding red and blue seeds during the exploration of the islands and taking them to an elderly Coco to upgrade. During exploration, there were a couple of hard stops, such as at the third island's raised bridge, which requires story progression for it to be lowered. Beyond this, I often found myself reaching other parts of the various islands that perhaps maybe I wasn't meant to reach, but this is what adds to the fun of exploring open worlds like this. It also speaks to the somewhat robust movement abilities that Sonic has. I mentioned briefly about the cyberspace levels. These are accessible through podiums that Sonic must acquire vault keys from so as to unlock and retrieve the Chaos Emeralds. These move Sonic from the open zone format to something more traditional to a standard 3D Sonic game, for better and worse. Gone is also the tighter feel Sonic has in the open world exploration, as well as the abilities he had, including the speed, ring, and power upgrades. Sonic must beat the level, do so within a certain time frame, find all 5 hidden red rings, and a certain threshold of standard rings to get all 4 vault keys. The player doesn't have to do all of these at once, but therein lies the necessity to replay these over and over again, especially with how differently that Sonic feels, and the boosting not really boosting him as much as when the button's first pressed. These got annoying and tedious quick. There were 30 total of these cyberspace levels in the game, yet all of them only pull from just 4 environments of Sonic's past, and I grew tired of them real quick too. One of the best things about the cyberspace levels is the music. While I love metal music, I also love me some good trance genre music too. These cyberspace levels excelled quite well at this. As a whole, I would say that Frontiers has the best story for a Sonic game. The main scenario was written by writer Ian Flynn, and he's known for writing many of the scripts for the Sonic the Hedgehog comic books. There's quite a bit of character progression for all of the characters in the game, though perhaps the least for Sonic himself. Sonic's allies and enemies are given more depth than they ever had, such as Amy being more than just a blind love interest for Sonic, Tails wanting to strike out on his own and not always have to be rescued, and even Dr. Eggman is given quite a bit of depth, especially with that ending. No spoilers here. I also loved many of the callbacks to previous Sonic games that were there.
What is your end goal?
It varies. Sometimes it's a spinning sign, sometimes it's a big old ring.
These occurred throughout the entirety of Frontiers too. Now, I honestly didn't get a lot of them, as well as a lot of the Easter eggs, as I hadn't played a few of the 3D titles like Sonic Forces that some of these may have made reference to. I thought the English voicing was great, although hearing Sonic first talk was jarring. He sounds like he's purposely talking with his voice deeper to sound more mature. Just wasn't what I was used to from past 3D Sonic games and the Sonic movies.
He loves to hear his own lips flap, but I gotta hand it to the Eggster. This place is epic. Everyone and their brother is gonna want to come here.
Oh my god, stop the car right now!
What?
The world's largest rubber band ball? We gotta see it!
No, this is not some fun family road trip.
You're right. It was lame. Gift shop was cool though.
I feel fine, but that energy that was holding me prisoner went into you.
I've been infused with weird zappy stuff before. Besides, I feel like it gave me some kind of boost.
Beyond the hit or miss aspects of the cyberspace levels, I do have to admit that there were a few other annoying parts to the game. This includes the Breath of the Wild-like Blood Moon, which is called the Starfall, where enemies regenerate at night. This also causes star pieces to appear on the ground, making the world fill up with beacons flooding the screen. These star pieces beacons end up flooding any of the other player-led beacons that were on the map, thus getting really annoying. And the big honking slot machine that appears right in the center part of the screen, obscuring the view, felt like somebody used the blooper item while I was playing Mario Kart. Ugh, annoying. Collecting the star pieces automatically spins the slot machine to gain purple coins, and these purple coins are spent in a fishing minigame held by Big the Cat. Because of course there's a fishing minigame. I feel like most Japanese games always have to have them. Once I found this, I made it a point to skip this entire aspect of the game whenever I ran into it. These fishing games are just so been there, done that for me personally. What was a ton of fun was the minigame where Sonic had to hack into a computer, and it's essentially a Galaga type bullet hell shoot 'em up. One minigame that I absolutely hated was the pinball one. Seriously, why is getting 5 million points on this a thing? When I finally hit the score goal, I thought that was enough, though I ended up missing the last step of putting the ball up through the top of the machine. So that meant that I ended up having to get 5 million points. Twice. Ugh. The game is also strewn with a number of mini-boss fights, so Sonic can acquire portal gears to unlock the cyberspace levels on the podiums. A couple of these fights were annoying, especially the one called Squid. It's a pain to try and jump onto the path it generates from the open field, and it's also quite tedious following the path just to get a chance to try and damage it. Sonic's fighting abilities were nice, although maybe I'm getting old or something, as I felt that there were just too many of them to remember. Once I unlocked the ability to automatically use them when mashing square on the PS5 controller, I never looked back. Overall, I'd give the game a 7 out of 10. Exploration and speeding through the many islands is an absolute joy. There's a surprisingly great story with fantastic character development for many of these characters that are 30 plus years old. The music is absolutely fantastic too. The island exploration has ambient music, cyberspace levels have fantastic Armin van Buuren-like trance sound to them, and I loved the corny lyric metal themes that play when battling the Titans as Super Sonic. The frustrating gameplay elements in the cyberspace levels, as well as a few in the islands themselves, don't totally detract the overall experience too much, making this again the best 3D Sonic game made thus far. While this open zone aspect has been done before in Bowser's Fury, it doesn't matter at all because both games are fun in their main areas. The creators of Frontiers had mentioned that Sonic Frontiers will be the model for future 3D Sonic games. Because of this, I'm cautiously optimistic that this will lead to even better 3D Sonic games coming in the future. Let me know what you think in the comments section below about Sonic Frontiers. Have you played it, or are you now interested in doing so? Please also like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.